Hello and welcome to Boise State in the Community. I'm Brooklyn Rietma, your host, and this is not just a television show. This is a service learning class where me and my fellow classmates get to learn the basic elements of television production. Each week we bring various guests, faculty from Boise State, who are making positive impacts in the community and on campus. This week, my guest is somebody who is encouraging diversity in technology and redefining what it means to be a computer scientist. My guest today is an assistant professor in the computer science department here at Boise State. All right, Dr. Olschanowsky, Dr. Catherine Olschanowsky, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Kathy, so first of all, I know you've been part of the Boise State family here for a few years now. You moved here from Colorado, and I was curious to know what your journey was like. What brought you to Idaho and say, Boise State is the place I want to be?
So I was at a computer science conference. It's called Supercomputing, and I ran into a professor from Boise State, Dr. Stephen Cutchin. And he was telling me all about this wonderful city with a river that runs right through the middle, and a great community, and asked me to apply. We had a conversation about the fact that I was on the market. And I was quite happy in Colorado and convinced that that's where I was going to stay, that was the place for me. And I came out for the interview to check things out. And I didn't tell them this at the time, but they had me sold within the first half day of the interview. Boise is a wonderful place. We had fantastic weather that day. And the movement in the university right now is really special. And I could see that right away, and I wanted to be part of it.
Wow, that is really awesome. So you said you were sold in the first half of the interview. Was that just because this was Boise and Boise's so great, or what else sold you? What brought you here to this campus?
So everything about what I saw in the city was nice and enjoyable, but there's this energy inside the computer science department, and I describe it as startup energy that you would feel at a startup tech company. That they were going to grow fast, they were going to make huge impacts. And no one can tell them that what you're doing is too difficult, or you should rethink it. They were determined, and they were on this really nice trajectory.
Wow, that is really awesome. And you mentioned the energy of the computer science department, and I know that there's something special about the computer science department because it's not actually on campus, it's actually downtown. So
that's right.
Yeah, how is that energy displayed over there, and what makes it being downtown so significant?
So the computer science department, actually the new building opened up the week that I came on board. And so when I was interviewing, I got to see the building under construction. And the idea was that we want our students embedded in the tech community here in Boise. We want them taking internships at local companies, and we also want employees at local companies coming and taking classes from us at Boise State. And so the whole computer science department was moved downtown. We're in the Clearwater building. We take up the second and third floors. And we really do get that exchange with the local tech community.
Wow, that is really awesome. So basically, putting it downtown in this tech hub that's just growing is really just encouraging students to be more involved in the actual community this is part of, expand themselves beyond campus, right?
Yes, and internships are a very important part, getting that hands-on experience, seeing what it's like to be in a team that's doing software engineering, and experiencing that mentorship is very important for our students.
Okay, and so when you first when you first came to the computer science department, you weren't a professor, correct? You had another role besides being a teacher, right?
So when I finished my PhD, I took a position that had that did not have a teaching role. I was just doing research. But when I arrived in Boise State, that role is your somewhat typical assistant professor position, where I have 3 roles that I'm filling: teaching, which is teaching your university level classes, research, which is a strong focal point at this point in my career, and then there's my service activities. And so those are community engagement and helping the department run and helping the College of Engineering run. And so all 3 of those roles are really important as I came to Boise.
Yeah, absolutely. And focusing more on the teaching aspect of your career, what sorts of classes do you teach? What are you teaching now?
So I have 2 classes that I'm teaching right now. The first is an introduction to C programming. And so I'm teaching sophomore and junior level students how to do systems level programming. So this is fairly low level programming for computer science majors. And I'm also teaching a service learning class that involves being engaged with a local high school, a very special local high school. So we have the Marian Pritchard school here in Boise that serves pregnant and parenting teens. And myself and the students that are taking my service learning classes at Boise State go to the Marian Pritchard School to teach them computer science skills.
Wow, that is really awesome. And so more about the Mariette Pritchard School. So these students are, they're at-risk teens, right, that you're serving. And so how did you get involved with them and why?
So becoming a professor, I knew that I needed to build up this service component of my portfolio, I guess, or of my career. And I was really searching for a group of people to work with that I could connect with and establish a bond, and at the same time make a big impact. And I was actually a little lost on how to identify this group. And I got some guidance from Dr. Donna Llewellyn and Megan Gams, who are here on campus, and they provide a great resource for junior faculty. And they helped me focus my vision, and they're the ones who brought up to me that there is this population of people in the community that could use my help. And so they took my hopes of working with at-risk students, introduced me to the Marian Pritchard School, and then together we came up with the program that would benefit my students and those students as well.
Wow, that is really awesome. And this service learning class, it's about diversity in tech, right?
Exactly. And so the university students are learning about diversity in tech, or really the lack of diversity in tech. And so we study what are companies doing about diversity in tech. And we try to pull apart what they put on their websites and they say that they're trying to do to improve diversity in tech. And this is something we should all want, because there's a lot of research that shows diverse teams, teams with lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, they produce better products. And so we want this. We want to bring people of different backgrounds into this field.
Wow, that is really awesome. And I know you've been working here for a few years now. And so have you yourself seen this diversity continue to improve in your classes and in the computer science department?
I think that on a whole, computer science in the whole country is struggling with this issue. And I can't say that I have actually seen the numbers increasing in the very short time that I've been here, but I have definitely seen interest and efforts being made at all different levels to attract talent. In fact, one of the best things that Megan did for me when we were talking was introduce me to research that is on the best practices in how to recruit and retain people of color and women in these tech-related fields. And so Boise State is definitely making strides in that direction.
Wow, that is really awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I agree that it's really important to encourage minorities to be involved in this field. And right now we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we are going to discuss more about Dr. Olschanowsky's role in diversity in tech and more about her service learning course.
Moving onto campus my first year was a really, really big deal. It was the first time out of the house, first time living with so many people that I don't quite know. And so preparing for that, one of the first things I did was obviously look at the floor plan, see what I could fit into my room, what I should bring, what I should not bring. And then the next step was really money. So thinking about how I was going to pay for it, considering on-campus jobs, of which I've had a few, and it definitely helped in being able to pay rent and being able to live on campus and be a student effectively.
So one thing that was great for parents is just one inclusive payment. We really enjoyed that and made it very easy. But as well, having someone here to help her out, having the support services was big for us. Knowing that there was resident advisors, resident directors, and also academic offerings for her at the residence hall was huge. Knowing that she'd be taken care of financially and as well as being very helpful to her to succeed at school.
Hello and welcome back to Boise State in the community. Before we went to break, me and Dr. Olschanowsky were discussing her class, Diversity in Tech, and how this is serving at-risk teens and encouraging them to pursue computer science fields. All right, so Dr. Olschanowsky, can you tell me a bit more about how you got involved with the Marian Pritchard School and what they're learning in this class?
I would be happy to. So, as I said, the Marian Pritchard School serves pregnant and parenting teens, and this population of students is very much considered at risk. Many of them have difficult backgrounds, and some of them have suffered significant trauma in their lifetime. And so this is a group of people who need extra support and who that education for them is extremely important. And so I saw working with them as an opportunity to have really big impact. I also saw it as a major challenge. I was once a young woman, and when I was a young woman, and if you had told me that I was going to be sitting here now as a computer scientist, I would never have believed you. I would have laughed at you. I believe the words, "that major is not for me," came out of my mouth multiple times. And so my journey to computer science was not a straight path. In fact, it involved a bit of trickery. My father, while I was on a break from school, he convinced me to take a night class with him. He didn't know campus, supposedly, and he wanted me to kind of make sure he got there to his class on time and showed him the ropes, and I was very eager to help him, so I did, and I ended up taking a computer science class and loving every minute of it, and it swung me as a full 180. Because then I realized that this topic that I thought was not for me is actually quite a good fit, and that it turns out this is how my brain works. It also turns out that my father took that class a long time ago and had absolutely no need to take that class again and was fully aware of what he was doing. So thanks for that. So I approach these students as I don't necessarily want to trick them, but I'm not going to go to them and tell them that this is the career for them. I want to avoid that reaction of computer science is not for me. I don't belong in that group. And I really can't identify with how strong those feelings are. And so when we work with the students at Marian Pritchard, we try to apply the problem-solving skills that you use in computer science to their lives. And so we open it up for them and let them decide how this is going to fit. There's a combination of us visiting Marian Pritchard High School and Marian Pritchard High School students coming to Boise State and visiting us in our lab. And so they would come to a classroom and to a lab, and we would do these activities where we started by they showed me their schedule for the day, and it's truly impressive what these women are doing, managing a high school education and their children at the same time. And then we identified pain points. And so what's difficult in their day? And then we put those pain points into what we called themes. And several themes came out of this. There are challenges associated to transportation. There are challenges associated to diet and nutrition, scheduling. And these challenges are unique to this population. So we then took these themes and designed apps for their phones that would aid specifically them. So let's take the diet and nutrition app. This is not a recipe app for foodies. This is a recipe application that is designed for people who might need to swing by a food pantry and get whatever they are able to pick up. And then they need to turn that into a meal, and often a meal for many people. And so how can we really create these low budget meal planning situations? And we sat down and we planned out, okay, so as this person, what is your flow through the application? And maybe you're a recipe provider, what would that look like for you? And we designed all of these applications together. Which is definitely part of computer science skills. Now, our goal this semester is to really develop an app, and I mean getting these women into the code and putting the application together. We had a great meeting today, and we're going to focus on food and nutrition, and specifically making sure that all of the students and their children are getting a nutritious breakfast every day. And so they're getting a lot of different skills, and the university students are exercising their computer science skills, but they're also getting to see the impact they can have when they have this focus on including underrepresented groups in our field.
Wow, that is really awesome. And as you were saying, this class in particular holds challenges that aren't in a typical classroom, since these are kids who aren't your typical students. And I think you mentioned to me in a discussion we had earlier that some of these students bring their kids to class, which is not something you see very often. So what are the experiences like? What's it like teaching this class when it's not typical? There's other babies in the room. There's other aspects as well.
So there are several different barriers that I hadn't anticipated. There were some barriers that I had anticipated, like having children in the classroom. I don't actually see that as a barrier. Yeah. I've been known to bring my child to the classroom while I'm teaching. And so I hope that becomes welcomed in a typical classroom. Yeah. But there are other issues like attendance. And so the first several times we worked with the students, we realized that, we're not going to get consistent attendance, and we need to start from a place during every lesson that anyone can start. And so, as I said before, these students are kind of like, they're at risk for multiple reasons. And so when you have a teenage person who's dealing with homelessness, school is naturally not their highest priority. Their highest priority is figuring out where they're going to stay that night. And so sometimes school doesn't happen for them. They still need somewhere to go when they are able to make it happen so that we can continue their learning. And so we had to change up our curriculum or our lesson plans so that they could join in from any point. Now, when we invited them to the lab to do an exercise with us, we invited them to bring their children. And what we wanted to communicate to them was, it's comfortable here, and there's room for you, and there's room for your children, and there's a mother's room in the computer science department, which we got approved access to before they got there. It was utilized during their visit, and it was a great experience to have them in the lab with their children, holding their babies while being on the computer. And one baby was fussing, so I got to flex my muscles, my mommy muscles, and support her so that she could do the assignment while I took care of her child for her. And I think that there's room for that at Boise State. I think that we can support them in this way.
I agree too. All right, well, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are going to discuss more about diversity in tech and what that means to Dr. Olschanowsky and what it means here at Boise State.
My name is Brody Cavatayo from San Diego, California, and I play for the Boise State Hockey Club. I like build myself up, so I like build my confidence up, tell myself that like the other team is basically, they're not worth my time and I should be out there. The Boise State Hockey Club is awesome. I love the boys. The boys are super cool. The coaching staff and the booster club are awesome as well. I think we have a good chance. We move the puck really well. We do most of the little things right. We just got to tweaking up some of our aspects a little bit. I feel like we'll have a good turnout this year for sure.
Hello and welcome back to Boise State in the Community. Before our commercial break, me and Dr. Olschanowsky were discussing what diversity in tech was like in her service learning class, where she goes to a Marian Pritchard school and works with at-risk teens and encourages them to pursue computer science. And now, Dr. Olschanowsky, I'd like to discuss more about what diversity in tech means and how we can get more people involved in computer science. And so what would you say to somebody who wants to get involved in computer science, wants to dabble in it, but is maybe reluctant to for some reason? Perhaps they're discouraged from it.
So I actually get students quite often that come to see me and they'll say, I think I'm interested in computer science, but I was told it's too hard. Or, I don't feel comfortable in this group. Mm-hmm. And what I always say to them is, give it a try. Push your way in, and you might really be surprised. But I think that it's worth talking a little bit about how we can make our field more approachable to people who have those feelings and have those concerns about maybe they're not going to fit in, or maybe they can't do it, maybe it's too difficult. And there's a little bit of a secret in computer science is that it's not that difficult. And it is a learned skill, and people can learn to do this. But those feelings of alienation and feeling like you don't belong in the group are very real, and they can't be ignored, and you can't tell people to buck up and, you know, find your spot. We really need to make it clear that there are spaces that if you're a woman or if you're a person of color, you won't just be tolerated. You won't just be allowed to come and join this group. You'll be able to own some part of the space, right? And so you'll make it yours. And then those of us that are already here, we can be visitors in your space. And then that's how people are truly going to start feeling like they belong there and not having those feelings of alienation.
Yeah, and how do you think we're going to achieve that? How do you think that both Boise State and just in general, how do you think we're going to overcome these barriers for diversity and overcome them?
It's going to be specifically by making these spaces and then moving aside. A diversity program isn't about the people who are already here, whether that be me or a white male that's in the same role. It's about us creating the space and then giving it away. Creating an environment where students are comfortable, they're engaged with the topic. They may not be engaged with programming for the sake of programming. And so when you look at programs that do computing for the social good or computing for environmental sciences, then we are starting to bring people into computing, not because they think they want to be a programmer or not because they think that they're going to belong in this group, but because they're very engaged in environmental sciences and that's what they want to do. And they're willing at first to pick up the computer science skills that they need to do it. And when we've made them comfortable and we've let them own that space, then the next thing they know, they're driven to be the next generation of computer scientists.
Wow, that is really awesome. And so how would you define computer scientist? Because I'm sure there's been times where, you know, computer scientist meant one thing and now it means another. So what does it mean for you?
To me, there is no single definition of computer scientist. What I do in high performance computing and scientific computing is completely different than another professor might be doing, maybe Dr. Jerry Fales, who's working with children in human computer interaction, or Dr. Michael Ekstrand, who's working in fairness and algorithms, or Dr. Hoda Merpuyan, who works with privacy and security. There are so many different areas in computer science. It's a huge umbrella term at this point.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Sadly, our time's been cut short for tonight, but I really enjoyed our discussion and learning more about you, and I thank you again for joining us. And this has been Boise State in the Community. And before we go, I'd like to give special thanks to my producer, Dakota Nunez, director, Andrew Thornburg, and studio technician, Ray Mullins. Thank you for watching and see you next week.